Good afternoon, everyone. Argyle's once formidable home has been crumbling this season, but they have the chance to restore some foundations today at Home Park as we play host to Rotherham United in Sky Bet League One. For the third weekend in a row, Argyle have the chance to back up an away victory with a home game. However, they are winless here since September and have lost the last three. Rotherham are the visitors today, looking to bounce back after their first loss in 2 months on Wednesday. A fascinating encounter then, and all the build-up is coming your way right here on Argyle TV. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Erin Black and this is the pre-match show live from Home Park. It's almost actually 2 years to the day since Rotherham last visited Home Park, and that day Argyle left it a little bit late but came away with a win, and that is exactly what they want to be doing again today. The final match here before Christmas, and they are well overdue a victory. I think we can all agree on that. Rotherham at the minute lie 5 points above Argyle in the table, which is becoming a little bit congested in the middle there. So a win for Argyle today could bring them out of the drop zone. And as for Rotherham, of course, they've got their eyes on the top 10. So lots on the line. We'll have the team news for you and all the build-up coming your way over the next 25 minutes. So do stay with us. Your match passes, both audio and video, are available over on the website. You want to go to pafc.co.uk for all of the details on that. And joining me in the Argyle TV studio today is none other than former Argyle ladies captain Katie Middleton, fresh off the back of the Argyle Christmas party last night.
Indeed.
How are you? You actually are looking fresh and fine.
I'm well, yeah.
You're well, she's well. That's good. We and Aaron had kind of been teasing everyone in the breakfast show this morning because we actually did play it very safe, but I think it was nice, have a good catch up with everyone.
It was great. It was lovely to be out celebrating with the crew. So
yeah, it was nice to have something to celebrate.
It was, yeah. We'll have more to celebrate by 5 o'clock today.
Okay, good. I'm liking your confidence, because I was going to say, is today going to be the day that we finally get home form back on track and you're leaning towards?
Do you know? I
maybe.
think we've got to be positive, haven't we? Like you said, it's been disappointing. We've gone away. We've picked up wins that maybe in previous seasons you would have not expected us to go away and get. So you really want to give this crowd here at Home Park something to get excited about. It's been a long time since we've picked up 3 points here. So Rotherham are a side who. They've drawn a lot of games, had a heavy defeat in midweek, and I think it's probably a good time to be playing them. And we're just starting to get a little bit of a solidness, I guess, about us, and conceding a few less goals. And hopefully, if we can keep a clean sheet here today, then we go on to get 3 points. Yeah,
we've spoken previously about consistency and how consistency is really important in the club, but hard to maintain when you've had so many various factors making things inconsistent. So do you think particularly the away games we've seen, which we are tending to perform a little bit better on, we're seeing elements of consistency there, of performances improving, do you think?
Yeah, I think the key thing from the start of the season was let's stop conceding so many goals. And you look at your last couple of games on the road, and we haven't conceded. We've won. Yeah. We've won both games 1-0, and when we do concede, there seems to be no way back for us. So it's so important that we try to keep clean sheets as much as we can. And I think if you get that bit right, you get that consistency, like you say, in terms of your defensive shape, and you stop conceding, then it gives you a little bit more freedom in terms of your attacking play, which is what we haven't been very good at here so far this season.
We always speak about away games being more difficult than home games, and that's not in any way to say that our away games have been particularly easy. But why do you think it is that we have been better away from home this season, which is a complete opposite of what we're used to usually?
I almost think the pressure's off a little bit when you go away from home, and almost the onus is on the home side to come out and play the more attacking football. And as an away side, if you go and you sharp shop a bit and you think, all right, well, we'll just try and even pick up a point on the road, and we don't concede, but you at least get a point from the game. So I think that's kind of suited us in terms of we don't have to be open, we don't have to be expansive.
Yeah.
We're less likely to get picked off on the counter attack, those kinds of things. So I think that's why we've been a bit better on the road. And like you say, it's not like we've been brilliant away from home, but things have been better recently. So that's something to build on.
Yeah, especially with how far our fans have to travel for some of these games. It is the 5th game for Argyle in the past 3 weeks, and so it's quite a good thing that it's coincided with a few of our players coming back from injury. Let's take a look at the team sheet for Argyle now then and see who has made the starting 11 for this afternoon. On the screen for you there: Connor Hazard, Joe Edwards, Julio Plegathuelo, Alex Mitchell, Brendan Galloway, Joe Rawls, Malachi Boateng, Matty Sorinola, Barley Mumba, Owen Dale and Owen Asani. And on the bench, Ashby Hammond, Ross, Wiradu, Suge, Patterson, Amici and Benarous. I think it's a couple of changes, isn't it, Katie? And then we take a look at how they're lining up as well on the pitch. I mean, nice to see. I think, well, I mean, we've got various players that we can go through, but if we start with, Joe Rawls back in the mix there after missing the midweek game, and also Amici as well. I know he's on the bench, but I think he is a player that Argyle have been missing a little bit. Yeah,
definitely, and I think Amici particularly is one of those players who I think can make things happen out of nothing. A player who wants to be direct and take players on, which is probably something that we haven't had a lot since Amici's been injured and Caleb Watts has been injured. So to have him back in and amongst the options to obviously bring off the bench is a big positive for Argyle. And we've seen it all season where we've lacked creativity and injuries have certainly not helped that. And when you've been so heavily reliant on one person for goals, it's obviously been difficult. So good to have those players coming back in and being options for us. Yeah,
Galloway, of course, there is having his 100th game today as well. So that's a big accolade for him. He also goes off to play for Zimbabwe in the African Cup of Nations. So lots going on for him. Another player that we certainly do need to mention, and this is like a mental figure that I'm about to read out. We were having a look at it earlier. After what was 1,000 minutes without a single player other than Laurent Talai scoring for Argyle, Owen Asani finally scored on Tuesday. We're going to have a little look at him now. I mean, he seems like, he's the most likely going forward for us at Argyle at the minute. We know Talai is out for this game as well. So nice to have that goal midweek.
Definitely, and I think, as with all attacking players, it's one of those where, when you're scoring goals, your confidence goes up and, you find yourself getting into the right areas and to be perfectly honest, on Tuesday night, Owen Asani was probably, second best to get to the ball and fair play to him. It was his kind of work rate, his endeavour that sort of got him into that position in the first place and, won the ball back, rounds the keeper and he actually finished it really well. So, I don't think people quite give him credit for like what he's achieved so far. He's scored quite a few goals for Argyle this season.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, so his return has been pretty good when you look at kind of how much he's sort of started and things. So, he's obviously going to be the main man today. He's got an important job to try and hold the ball up and get bodies up and around him as quickly as we can. So. But we'll see him work hard like he always does.
We saw how much that goal meant to him earlier in midweek, so it would be fantastic if we were able to replicate some of those scenes here at Home Park, because I think that is what all the fans that come here have been crying out for. Of course, Rotherham do stand in our way this afternoon. They have lost their first game in 8 on Wednesday night, and they've got a pretty impressive injury list as well, maybe one to rival our own. This is the side that they've gone with today, though, coming up on the screen for you there: Dawson, Rafferty, Holmes, Baptiste, Hall, Gore, Yearwood, Spence, Powell, Martha and Hugill. And on their bench, Can, Kelly, Raggett, Coletta, Holmes, Douglas and Ayres. When we take a look at Rotherham, Katie, Nombe is probably one of the names that we would mention is missing. Of course, Exeter City link there. We thought maybe he would be coming back from injury. today of all days to play, but I think probably a bit of a relief actually that he's not included in that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's a dangerous player for them. They picked up another couple of injuries in midweek in their game as well. So, a few changes for them. But, they've got plenty of players who can cause problems. Hugo scored a couple of goals already this season, as has Hall from the wide area. So, they've got players that can cause problems there. Generally quite a direct side, and I think Argyle have struggled with that when we've come up against teams who've just been really direct and played long balls in towards our centre half. So that's something that we're certainly going to have to be aware of today.
Yeah, I think the attacking threat will probably fall on the shoulders of Denzel Hall today. He is one of the players that we picked out in the breakfast show for a little bit of analysis. 3 goals and 2 assists for him this season. You seeing him on the screen there, he is probably the main man for Argyle to be keeping their eyes on. Yeah,
he cuts in off that right hand side and just finds himself in these little pockets of space. And I think when you're playing in those wide areas, you have an important role in terms of trying to get forwards and support. They'll play with a back 3 anyway, so they'll have defensive duties, and I think that's up to Argyle to, I guess, try to push them back and make him do a bit more defending. If we can be attacking and play on the front foot, he's going to have to sit in a little bit deeper and be more of a defensive unit for them. So I think that's kind of the onus is in Argyle to try and flip that round and not allow him to be bombing forwards all the time and creating opportunities. Yeah, we also, of course, mentioned Galloway in regards to Zimbabwe, but we must mention a Rotherham player as well. Martha could be off to World Cup with Curacao in the summer, so Rotherham, again, another team with a player to keep an eye on there on a more international scale. Let's have a moment now to hear from the head coaches and how they're feeling about today's game. We'll start with Tom Cleverley, who of course knows that the form at Home Park desperately needs to improve.
Gaffer, 3rd week in a row now where we come into a game here having won 1-0 away. Away form seems to be sussed as much as it can be.
Yeah.
How do we start winning here then?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is consistency. If we replicate the 2 performances first half against Northampton and Bradford, you'd normally have done enough to be leading those games at half time. Now what we need to understand is, yes, be consistent, but why are we not? We need to go 10% more, 10-20% more, and that's generally in those final actions where we're just maybe not composed enough or not taking enough care around the opponent's box and not turning dominance into goals. But there'll be a lot of consistent messages for sure. We look defensively solid. We look like we have the ability to keep clean sheets. Now just that extra 10%, whether it's making a long busting run, whether it's landing on a second at the edge of the box, or whether it is that little bit of composure and quality in and around the opponent's box to make sure we turn these strong first halves into half-time leads will help us turn around what we're desperate to turn around, and that's our form here. Doing it against a side, like you mentioned, that we're in as good a form as that, should give you confidence going into the weekend with I know Rotherham lost yesterday, but they'd been on I think an 8-match unbeaten run before that as well, haven't they? Yeah, done a great job there, Matt, after a tricky start to really get some consistent performances now. A bit of a blip yesterday. Now we have to make sure that it's not a blip and we back it up. But yeah, they've had injuries and there'll be reasons why yesterday happened. Now, I think one of the consistencies we've had the last few weeks is we've really focused on ourselves, and I think that will be what the game's about on Saturday. Is if we can really turn up, show a good level of intensity, discipline, creativity, and take our performance to another level. I think we don't just give ourselves the best chance of winning. We guarantee we win the game. I'm trying to think of the right questions to ask off the back of this, because it's really tricky because he always talks so openly, but the results aren't going our way. So, he's talking about creativity and intensity and discipline and all things like that. I mean, I think the improvement in performances has been built on defending, but if we
if we focus on that, it probably takes the focus away from scoring the goals, and we know where we're going wrong, like you mentioned before, is if we're not scoring first and we concede, then never looks like there's a way back for us. So I suppose, can we afford to play like we did again on Tuesday? Do you think Rotherham will?
It's almost the setup that works for Argyle currently.
Yeah.
You know, they've obviously found this little bit of a recipe that kind of works on the road. I think the question is, will the fans let them play that way? Because, you know, it might be, again, they're scrappy performances often where, you know, you don't necessarily have a lot of the ball, you just get men behind the ball and you make it difficult for the opposition to try and break you down, and it's not very exciting to watch sometimes. But if it gets you 3 points, then that's the most important thing. And I think, you know, where we are in the league currently, you know, performances essentially just go out of the window, and it's about picking up results in whatever way you can. You know, if we can get that mix between being solid defensively, but then, as Tom cleverly said, having that little bit extra in attack, and that is difficult, and that's a fine balance that is hard to get right, and we haven't so far this season. So, you know, if you can be solid, you can be difficult to break down, then hopefully those extra bits from an attacking sense come. And like I say, if you can give this crowd something to cheer about and, you know, get behind, it makes a big difference. And we just haven't seen that so far this season, and you know, the fans haven't been able to really sort of get excited by performances so far. So, you know, hopefully that can change today.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if you look at it, we've had just 3 shots on target in the last 2 home games, so that understandably isn't something that fans are going to get excited about. And I think what we know about Home Park previously is that clubs never used to like coming down here for a variety of reasons. The travel, just making it a difficult playing space. And I don't know whether that's already happened or not, but we don't want sides to like coming here.
Yeah, and I think, you know, at the moment it's probably one of those, you know, oppositions look at results and think, great, Argyle away, let's get down there and, you know, turn them over and get back on the bus, and home we go again with 3 points. So we've got to make it difficult, and you've got to, as you say, turn it into somewhere that oppositions don't like coming again. This is why we were so successful, you know, in the, you know, when we won League One, you know, when we managed to stay in the Championship, it was because of our home form. And, you know, you can see we are where we are in the league now because our home form's been really poor. So, yeah, we've got to try and make it a difficult place to come again, and, send people back on the bus with no points instead of 3 points.
Yeah, I'm done with people. The studio is right by the away end as well. I'm done with people at the end of the match. We can hear them all singing through the walls, so we can't be having any more of that today. Rotherham, though, have been on a great run. That was until Wednesday. They are, in fact, unbeaten in their 4 away games, and their manager, Matt Hamshaw, is keen for his players to improve on what happened to them midweek against Blackpool.
That Plymouth Argyle away is always one of those fixtures, isn't it? That when you look at it, you know you've got it to come. How much different is it to prepare for when you know you've got such a big journey ahead around the fixture?
I think as much as you try and play it down, it is. So you look at it and think, right, when can we travel? What time can we travel? Do we train on the way down? Do we go at night before? Like, look, there's loads of planning goes into it. You also have to take into account the effect it has after. So the Sunday, the Monday, with the travel, with the journey, and I know people think, well, the footballers, they're on a real nice coach, and it's a real nice coach, but it still takes a lot out of you. So we have to manage it kind of differently. But I love going to Plymouth. I love their stadium when you get there. I love their fans. I think they make it like loud. I know they're going through a difficult period at this moment in time, but it's a good place to go and play football. But it's a long way, as you know, to get there.
Yeah, it is an occasion when you get there. It's a big club, isn't it? You know, it's a great fan base, great stadium. I mean, it is a surprise that they've started the season how they have, because when it gets going down there, it is some place to be. Yeah,
it's quite intimidating. I don't even mind admitting that. We've been down there a number of times. We've been on right end of results, which is positive. And like you say, look, we've watched quite a lot of them recently because we know we've obviously got them coming up. So Yeah, probably a little bit of lack of confidence at the minute, which is understandable. And look, for sometimes as powerful as the fans can be, it can be hard as well when they're used to seeing success that they've had in recent times. I mean, you'll have to remember that Liverpool game last year in Cup, and now the town were going mental. So yeah, look, they've had it a bit tough, but at the same time, it'd be a tough game. They've got some good players who are probably a bit low on confidence, but you're always fully aware that that confidence can turn at any time. You just hope it's not against your team.
Matt Hamshaw, looking forward to this one. I think it's fair to say he did have a lot of praise for Argyle as a club, but a lot of it was said with that slightly wry smile of, they've had a little bit of a difficult time. And I think he's certainly fancying his chances. And I think maybe the feeling will be, and maybe it puts them at a bit of an advantage having had that, loss midweek, because they will be desperate to make sure it doesn't become 2 in a row. So maybe they'll have a little bit more fight in them for this afternoon.
Yeah, I think it's one of those difficult ones, isn't it? When you come off the back of a loss, does it sort of give you that little bit of a kick up the backside, if you like, and you've been on a decent run, but it all comes sort of crashing down, and then it's like, right, let's get back to business again, or does it knock your confidence a little bit?
Yeah.
And you don't want them to be the wounded animal that comes here and really rallies themselves and puts on a performance today. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how they approach the game. And like I say, if Argyle, as Tom Clevey said in his interview, if they can just focus on what they need to do and not worry too much about the opposition, then hopefully, like I say, we come out of on the right side of the result.
Yeah, 6 draws for Rotherham this season. Hamshaw's spoken about them drawing too many games. We, on the other hand, wouldn't necessarily complain with that result, because a point is a much needed point.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I should say, any points are important points when you're 23rd in the league, and it is tight down there still, and you're not a million miles off being able to get yourself out of the drop zone. Everything's really sort of condensed in the table. So you pick up a couple of victories and you see yourself climb up the table. It gives everyone a load of confidence. The players pick up a bit of confidence. The fans get a bit of confidence from it, and a couple of victories back to back would be fantastic. Obviously, we went away to Wickham on Tuesday and picked up a massive 3 points. So, if we can back that up today with another victory, and you look at home performances, and right, we've lost the last 2. Bradford was a close game. Northampton in the first half, we probably should have been a couple of goals up at half time, and then it's a completely different game. We won't talk too much about the second half of that one, but
that's fine.
If you can take those performances, you can maybe get yourself ahead in the game with just that little bit of extra quality in the final third. Then this place gets rocking, and
we would like.
It's a different place to be.
It is, and maybe today is that day. We can only wait and see. Katie, thank you. We'll be back again at halftime, hopefully with some highlights for you. Grab your match passes now if you haven't got them. You've got just over 5 minutes until kick-off. It's Charlie Price and Mark Edworthy doing your commentary this afternoon. They'll be with you very shortly, because it is Argyle versus Rotherham up next.